Hello there, podcast people. A new episode of the What's Your Mount Rushmore podcast, hosted by Mark Duvel and John Hanson, is about to begin. These two adorable bastards occasionally make me laugh, and other times they really piss me off with their bullshit. This week's topic, it's a real doozy.
Welcome to What's Your Mount Rushmore podcast with hosts Mark Duvel and John Hanson.
Are you kidding me?
Two old friends and knuckleheads discussing and covering their top four choices for any and all topics, making up their Mount Rushmore selections each week. Nothing is off limits. As you listen, remember, we always want to know, what's your Mount Rushmore?
Hey everybody, glad you could join us once again. We're always happy to see you. Hopefully you're happy to see us or hear us too. Well, thankfully you don't see us. You only hear us. That's the good thing. But this is the What's Your Mount Rushmore podcast with one of your hosts, the guy over here, John Hanson.
Yeah, that reminds me of all the smartasses who always tell me I have a face for radio. They can eat shit.
Whoa! Hopefully nobody's asking you for us to put this on video. I mean, we made a conscious decision to not do that.
Yeah, I don't know what it would be you think you're missing. So just sit back and listen while you're driving around the metro, for God's sake. So I am the other host. Welcome back. My name is Mark Duvel, and this is the What's Your Mount Rushmore, the podcast. And for today's topic, we are joined by another former coworker from the old radio days at KDWB. John and I hired her as an intern for the promotion department back in the Butler Square days of KDWB and Cities 97. A very fun time, I might add. She's originally from Edina and was a Hornet, also known as a cake eater to pretty much everyone not from Edina. So we'll try not to hold that against her. And we did send her like special white gloves so that she wouldn't get her hands dirty while recording this podcast. Like myself, she also sells residential real estate here in the Twin Cities and has a very unique tie to the very subject we're covering in today's episode, which is 1990s sitcoms. So let's quit farting around and welcome to the podcast, Jennifer Lundquist, formerly the realtor known as Strangest.
Guys. And for the record, I do not live in Edina anymore, so that's a pass.
You're no longer a cake eater.
I'm no longer a cake eater. I'm a leaf bird, or what are they? I don't know. Maple Grove.
What?
A leaf burner?
A leaf bird. Or no, that's more of a hockey, like Crimson. The Leaf. Fear the Leaf is like the tagline for Maple Grove. I don't know, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's part of that giant hockey cult.
Oh, yes.
One hockey cult to another.
It is. It's fun, too.
Basically.
Right?
Now, they do have a respectable hockey program. I'll give you that.
Right.
We do.
But no, seriously, welcome. I mean, again, we're going back. I'm always bad with times, and John is probably a little better, but was that what, late 90s?
1999.
Was it? Okay.
Summer 99. So, the year of the Jedi.
The Jedi.
Wow. I totally forgot about that.
I did not.
The Jedi. So that was promoting what? The first run of those new prequels?
It must have been.
For Star Wars? And then we got a Volkswagen Jetta all decked out and like wrapped in Jedi Star Wars looking apparel.
Yes.
Yeah, it was promoting both the Jedi and the Star Wars movie, I guess. That first year, right? The first Star Wars movies.
So we really were, like Prince, partying like 1999 back then.
We were.
Ready for Y2K and how the Earth was going to end. I remember Jen was, that New Year's Eve, she was in a ball in her basement, just wrapped up with an AM radio and canned goods.
You're right. I was. I think you were with me. I think everyone was doing that.
Yeah, eating cake in Edina, I'm sure.
Right.
That whole crew back then, that really was, I'm assuming that was a summer, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That was a fun summer, and we met some really cool people along the way. One of your friend to all of us, but I know I think still see her quite a bit, is Heather Spencer.
And it's her birthday today, so happy birthday, Heather.
Wow. How about
is
that?
It?
Yeah, it is. But yeah, with Nate and Anita and, your favorite Marcy, that was a fun group.
Marcy's Playground.
Yeah. That was a great group. We had a lot of intern groups in those days, and I think that's my favorite group and the one the most memorable one too. Very memorable summer. I remember there was 1999. I don't know why that stands out, but I do know that I do remember that being 1999. It was a fun year. And, it's a perfect tie because, our topic today is the 1990s sitcoms. So it's perfect to have somebody here with us who we knew and hung out with, employed in the late 90s. So there you go.
Yay.
I can't wait, though, to dive into what I kind of teased in the little intro for Jen was she does have a pretty unique tie to a very specific 90s sitcom, which I guarantee you we're going to be talking about. But I'm excited to hear more about it. So nonetheless.
We'll dive into that story. That'll be a fun story to hear. Once again, I haven't heard it in a long time, but I'm excited to hear that story again. And I have a feeling that particular sitcom will make all of our lists, but we'll see.
Call it a hunch. I kind of think it damn well better.
Yeah.
But anyway. Well, Jennifer, you want to get us rolling?
Sure. So my first pick, I remember watching the show a lot because it was more of, there were three boys that were kind of, the hot crushes back in the 90s. And that pick is Home Improvement.
Oh.
The JTT.
Yes, so Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Zachary Ty Bryan, I can't remember the other guy, Taryn something. They all had three names. But the JTT, and one of the fun facts is that he sold more magazine covers than my ultimate crush, Leonardo DiCaprio, back in the day. So
wow.
He sold more, what?
More magazine covers than Leo.
That's a good claim to fame for him.
Yes,
I think I'll take Leo's career, though.
I would take Leo's career, yes.
Say the two boys' names again.
It was Zachary Ty Bryan.
He was the oldest, right?
Yes, who played Brad, who got into some kind of legal issues in the last couple of years with the drugs and all of that.
Yeah.
That dude, Zachary, whatever his name.
Zachary Ty Bryan.
Zachary Ty Bryan. I remember doing like a back to the 50s, like auto, what do you call those? Auto car? What the hell was it? Carcraft. And he was doing like a special guest appearance, but KDWB was there promoting that appearance. So I had to hang out with this little D-bag. And he was just such a little pompous prick, but whatever.
Wow.
I mean, I get it. He was on a hit sitcom at the time, and I'm sure he was like, why the hell am I in St. Paul, Minnesota at a car show?
For a paycheck, obviously.
Right.
Well, clearly for a paycheck, but yeah. So, and it was that one, Zachary Bryan Ty.
Zachary Ty Bryan. They all had three names. It was like Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Tara Noah Smith. That was the other one. He was a little one that he was kind of a one-hit wonder on the show. But you always wondered why Wilson never showed his face. And,
right.
Pamela Anderson was on there.
It introduced us to Pamela.
Yeah. And then she left for Baywatch, and that was a good career move on her part.
That was a good move for all of our parts.
Hey now.
Not mine.
some parts more than others, I suppose.
Yeah.
You pull our parts.
So
Right.
weird. I saw that guy. I'm trying to blank on his name. The guy that co-hosted the TV show with Tim Allen on it. I don't remember the actor's name or the character name now. But you know what I'm talking about? On the Tool Time was the name of the TV show they did, I think. And anyway, I saw that guy in some infomercial like a few weeks ago, and he looks exactly the same as he did in the 90s.
The mustache?
Yeah.
That guy?
I think he's got a beard, but he literally looks like he has aged like 4 days in 25 years.
Wow.
I think he does a lot of like infomercials for like the coolest new sponge or some like
that's what I saw.
Ladder.
It was some infomercial for a garden hose. I saw him. That's what it was. Hey, a buck's a buck.
Yep, exactly.
That was a great show. I loved that show too. I watched it fairly regularly. Didn't make my list, but I did love that show.
I've always been a fan of Tim Allen, no doubt.
Right.
He's just
Me
got a
too.
cool vibe to him.
How do I know? Sitting in that Camaro talking there, there could be big bucket racing sitting out there an hour and a half. I would go, holler. The guys that said, I tell you, one time I would go, oh no.
Cool kind of backstory about him, how he used to be somewhat of a fuck up and then got his act together and became a huge Hollywood star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big time. He's on a show right now that's I guess fairly popular sitcom right now. I watched it once. Didn't really do much for me, so I didn't keep watching it. But I don't know. It's good to see him on TV still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unlike JTT, who we have not seen since in 20 years.
Yeah, probably. You think he's retired? Probably living off his $5 residual checks. And
Oh yeah. Oh, I bet he's got good residuals. I bet they all do. Didn't he do a bunch of like little teeny type movies too, like Hallmark type style
Yeah,
movies?
probably.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of had a career beyond Home Improvement.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other Zachary Ty did not.
No, you just see him in TMZ for he was in jail or arrested for drugs or something. But hopefully he gets his life together.
You don't want the TMZ career. That's what you don't want.
No,
The all too familiar cautionary tale of being a childhood star.
correct. Yep.
Yeah, that's why I did this all on purpose. I'm trying to be a star later in life.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Funny. Move on to me then, shall we?
Yep. You're next.
I'm next. I think this one's going to be on Mark's list. I don't know about you, Jen, but it's Seinfeld. Love that show. We've talked about that show. I mean, people that listen to our podcast probably have a feeling that Mark and or myself would include this on Mount Rushmore of 1990s sitcoms, because Seinfeld to me was the bomb. I mean, I still watch reruns of that show today and laugh. And even though I've watched the same episode 14 times.
Well, you're right. I definitely match on Seinfeld because I think we'd have zero cred doing a podcast about Mount Rushmore picks of the 90s sitcoms if we didn't have Seinfeld represented, for F's sakes. I don't know if there's ever been a better sitcom in the history of television. And in my humble opinion, we've already talked about one before. I would put this in kind of that rarefied air of, I'd put Seinfeld on a Mount Rushmore list of any decade. I don't give a shit if we're just zeroing in on the 90s. Seinfeld is about as good as television can be in 30 minutes. I will always think Kramer was one of the funniest physical comedians ever put on a TV show.
Oh, you better believe it.
Exactly. Kramer, played by Michael Richards. He won 2 Emmys for that role. That character actually is based on a real guy. So Seinfeld was created by Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, as a lot of people know. Larry David sort of based the George Costanza character on himself, and he based the Kramer character on a guy who was truly his next door neighbor. He was this weird, eccentric goofball, didn't have a job and just sort of somehow made money. And his name was Kenny Kramer. And this dude actually did a very Kramer thing during the run of Seinfeld. The real Kramer, this Kenny Kramer guy, actually he hosted a bus tour of Manhattan where he'd show off different Seinfeld sites. And that's such a Kramer thing. I mean, that's what the TV Kramer would have done.
Total Kramer thing. Well, I got to interject real quick. So, Jen, is this on your list?
It is not on my list because 2 reasons. One, I knew you two would pick this, and you're going to kill me. I have only ever watched 1 episode of Seinfeld.
Let's throw her the fuck off this podcast right now.
I know. Time is my other picks. I never got into it. And the only episode I ever saw was the Soup Nazi one. And one time it was on again, and so I watched that. But that's the only episode I have ever watched. And I know people are going to be like, "Are you nuts?"
Nothing for you.
I never got into it. But I know it's a fantastic show, and it's an iconic show. But I never watched it.
And that is not the special tie that I was saying that she has on one of
the special
topics.
The special tie is not that she's watched 1 episode of Seinfeld. No.
We found the one person on earth who's watched 1 episode of Seinfeld.
And she watched it twice, the same episode twice.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the guest we should have on for 90s sitcoms. A true aficionado.
You know what? TV, like movies, like music, it's subjective, right? I mean, everybody has their own opinions about things. Everybody has their own favorites. And that's the beauty of these Mount Rushmore lists that we do, is that everybody's going to have their own list. So I accept that. Actually, it's kind of cool because that means that she's going to have 4 unique picks that don't match on Seinfeld. So
the thing about Seinfeld, it clearly was a part of, one of the most probably impactful marketing messages of NBC's history, which was the whole Thursday night must-see TV. And I think that was definitely one of the drivers of that. I suspect that we'll be getting to, other programming that was tied to must-see TV as well. But it's so funny because of the whole Larry David element and his involvement in creating the show with Jerry Seinfeld. I always thought it was fascinating, especially years later when Curb Your Enthusiasm surfaced and really put Larry David kind of on the forefront of fame because he was kind of an unknown face tied to Seinfeld during the run of Seinfeld.
Yep.
But yet George Costanza's character is based very much on Larry David's demeanor, his behavior, his approach to life. And it's funny that Larry took that opportunity to carve out a character like George
Right.
based on himself. That's brilliant.
Well, and hats off to Jason Alexander, too, because you mentioned Kramer. I agree. Kramer is one of the most unique characters in the history of TV. But the acting that Jason Alexander does, the physical element and how his voice can go up and get so animated. And so, I mean, he's pretty brilliant in that show, too.
It's a once in a lifetime like ensemble cast that really was perfectly fit together. I mean, everyone had their place. Everyone crushed their role. Even Newman.
Right.
Hello, Newman.
Yeah, there's a lot of great other characters. Newman, both George and Jerry's parents are hilarious. It's so much fun to watch even now. And there's a lot of money out there too with these guys because Netflix paid more than $500 million for the streaming rights for Seinfeld. So
I mean, it was 9 seasons, 180 episodes. Started in '89, ran through '98. But when you really look back now, kind of in hindsight, what stand-up comic has that promotional machine promoting his own stand-up? So not only is he crushing it on the NBC sitcom Seinfeld, when he's not working on the show and gets to tour the country, the whole show is promoting the fact that he's a stand-up comic. I'm trying to accept the fact that she's seen one episode and it's like the most cliche one of them all.
I know, right? I'm sorry.
yeah, I accept that it wouldn't make her Mount Rushmore, but you do have to at least watch a few more episodes. At least give us that.
Okay.
At least find one that's called The Marine Biologist.
Oh, please. Oh, it's perfect. That episode is my number one favorite episode. It's a perfect TV episode.
Mine
Okay.
too.
I have to watch that then.
There's a beached whale. She's dying.
Is anyone here a marine biologist?
So I started to walk into the water. And as I made my way past the breakers, a strange calm came over me. I don't know if it was divine intervention or the kinship of all living things, but I tell you, Jerry, at that moment, I was a marine biologist. The sea was angry that day, my friends. Like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli. As I watched him struggling, I realized that something was obstructing its breathing. From where I was standing, I could see directly into the eye of the great fish.
Mammal.
Whatever.
Well, and the thing too about that show is a lot of the plot lines between the characters all somehow tie together at the end. And that episode is like the perfect example of that. Everything that each of the characters are doing individually kind of comes together at the end.
Okay.
So
And you distinctly hear Larry David's voice in one of the key moments that makes it funny.
Okay. I met him once.
really,
He gave me a hug. Yeah. When I was back in my Target days, I was out to dinner with a friend of mine and actually Tobey Maguire's ex-wife. And Larry David was at the same restaurant and came up and talked to Toby's ex-wife and then was giving everyone hugs and then he gave me a hug.
wow,
So I was like, oh, hi.
that's
So
awesome.
you were having dinner with Tobey Maguire's ex-wife
Yes,
because of Target.
correct. We were doing a small project with her. And so I flew out to LA and had dinner. I had a mutual friend who kind of introduced me to Jennifer and the three of us went out to dinner. And
So when we lost track of you briefly post radio, post KDWB, that is kind of what you did then for several years, right? You worked for Target Corp?
Yep, I was there almost 9 years.
Okay. And then you jump ship and now you do the rat race that I do. You
Sell houses.
You sell houses. You dirty dog.
Right.
The grind that is real estate.
Well, it's almost brought like you and I back together. I mean, there were years that we didn't talk and then real estate. And now I see Mark call and I'm like, oh, I need at least an hour here.
Yeah, see, I love that. That's my reputation. And unfortunately, it goes beyond just you. I hear that from a lot of people that once you get Mark on the phone, good luck.
No. It's like we just picked up and, went back to 1999.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Well, just like that, though, Jen, we are back now to your second pick because John and I matched on Seinfeld. You were the weirdo that didn't. So now let's hear what replaced Seinfeld.
Okay. This one, I think I've watched every episode multiple times. And my pick is Full House.
Wow,
That's a great pick.
Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a list of somebody who needs you. When you're lost out there
I did not expect that.
Really? I don't know if it was like a chick flick or just the story of, Danny Tanner and raising the 3 girls and the Olsen twins and Candace Cameron Bure. And but I think I've watched every one of those episodes multiple times, and I can't recollect watching the season finale on that show. So it's like you watch all of them, even the early episodes, but I could not tell you what happened at the finale. And then I've not watched any episodes of Fuller House, which is kind of the spinoff now on, I believe, Netflix. But Full House ran, for 8 years and a lot of episodes, and it was just another one of those iconic, I don't know, like chick flick TV shows, I guess.
Hi, honey, I'm home. Hi, girls. I'm sorry I'm late. The traffic was miserable. The camera.
Give me a break.
Huh?
Don't me. You waltz in here 25 minutes late and expect sympathy?
Well, I didn't know you had.
I have cleaned the house and ran a daycare center for socially deviant munchkins and missed Oprah. Ran this one to a ballet lesson, this one to the dentist. No cavities, thank you very much. Do you realize that I have slaved over a hot stove so you could have a hot meal when you come home? Huh?
That show launched a bunch of careers too. That's the thing too. I mean, Bob Saget was a stand-up before that, but I don't think he was as well known before that. Stamos, yeah, exactly. Yeah, him too, and Stamos, and then even the Olsen twins. I mean, there's all these different actors that got their start on that show, and then went out to do a lot of other things. And one of them went on to do Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was before. He did Alanis before Full House. That's right. Okay.
Coulier.
Dave Coulier. Yeah. Well, you ought to know, right?
Yeah, you ought to know about him.
My.
And iconically, another one of these child stars ended up as kind of a drug-induced trouble problem, Jodie Sweetin. But she obviously has turned her life around now. But It's like, you kind of feel sad for all these teen actors out there who kind of hit it big when they're young and then just have a troubled life.
And another example of a prick who just won't age is John Stamos.
Right?
Oh God, yeah, he's a handsome fella.
He is. His hair.
And he's the drummer for the Beach Boys.
He is.
He is occasionally. That's true.
Right.
And Bob Saget, I absolutely love Bob Saget. He is so damn funny. I was so sad when he died. It was such a weird fluke the way that he died too. But man, I love that guy. He is so funny.
My memory of Bob Saget does start obviously with Full House, the show, where he's this very wholesome, kind of a nerdy dad, right?
Right.
And then I remember getting older and then now becoming like a teenager or whatever the age might be. And then you're like, oh, Bob Saget, stand-up special. I should check that out. I bet it's good. And then when you watch Bob Saget do comedy, you are just stopped in your tracks because he's one of the filthiest comics ever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Truly one of the filthiest comics ever. And yet he's Danny from Full House.
My dad, we had a very weird existence. I was 11, and he would just tell me sick shit. We would be in a restaurant, this is true, and he was sitting next to me, and he had a menu, and he said, tonight's specials are cake and cock, and they're out of cake. And I was like, I'm 11. I like cake. They don't have cake? He was a sick guy.
Could not be more different than his Full House character, his stage persona. And he has a very funny cameo in the movie Half Baked, too.
What's that other joke documentary that you turned me on to, John, where Bob Saget is in it? What is that called?
The joke documentary? Oh, you mean the one about...
it's a specific joke.
Yeah, the aristocrats?
The aristocrats.
Yeah, he's... Which is a documentary about one joke that could be told a million different ways.
And it's, again, one of the filthiest jokes you'll ever hear because it's kind of the point is stand-up comic, true, like touring famous stand-up comics are in this documentary called The Aristocrats. And I think the whole point and the goal of the joke is to be as filthy as possible.
To shock.
It's a shock joke. And Bob Saget, second to none when it came to being a shock comedian.
Yeah, there's no one way to say the joke about the aristocrats. So every comedian puts their own spin on it. And the whole point is they add their own twisted, sometimes disgusting elements to the joke to try and shock each other. So but
I'm with you. When I heard about him, unexpectedly dying, especially the way that he did, you're just so like, oh, come on, man.
So sad.
But yeah, I loved his wit. I loved his wit. Sharp
Agreed.
as a tack, that dude.
Yep. Yeah. 1 in a million.
That's a great pick. In a weird way, I'm kind of pissed you picked it because I'm like, why didn't I think of Full House? What the hell's the matter with me?
I can't imagine you watching Full House, really, but I don't know.
The Painted Lady Houses of San Francisco? Are you kidding?
Right?
I didn't even know there was a new one called Fuller House. So to really wrap up the trifecta is the last series, The Fullest House.
Oh, come on.
Throw me off my own podcast. Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah.
You're getting close.
Good pick, though. I didn't see that one coming. And I'm kind of, like I said, torn about it.
So, all right. So move on to me then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. My next pick, I believe it was also part of the must-see TV lineup. It's just a little bit later. This show it started in 1997. It did run into the early 2000s. It did 7 seasons, 148 episodes. It's Just Shoot Me.
Oh. David
show,
Spade.
Kind of an ensemble cast as well that had George Segal was very funny. He played the owner of the magazine or the boss, and he was kind of a bumbling guy that had his own quirks and everything. David Spade was basically just a woman chaser. He was a sarcastic, smartass jerk. Most of the time, his character's name was Finch. And you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, that's pretty much every character he has ever played is a sarcastic, smartass woman chaser. Whether it's in movies or TV, that's just his style, I guess. But
it's his typecast, and he leans into it.
Right. There are 2 particular episodes that put this show on my Mount Rushmore. 2 episodes from this series that were funny enough that all these years later I had to use them or had to use it on my list. And one of them was an episode called Slow Donnie. And if you've ever seen that show, Slow Donnie was a character played by David Cross. Do you know who David Cross is, the comedian?
Of course.
One of the funnier guys out there. So he plays this character named Donnie. And one of the other guys on the show, the photographer on the show, he plays his brother. And apparently Donnie, when he was a teenager, he fell out of a tree and hit his head. And ever since then, he's been, quote unquote, Slow Donnie. It's not the most PC way of describing a show in today's world, but that's what he was. And he couldn't fend for himself anymore. He lived with his parents. His parents would help him out and help him with his day-to-day routine. At this point in the show, he comes and has a guest star on this episode, and he's like 30 years old, still living with his parents, doesn't have a job. It turns out that Maya, who's the daughter of George Segal's character, she figures out that he's faking it. This whole time he's been making it up, and he's not slow at all. He just doesn't want to get a job. He wants to be able to sit on his ass and play video games and have his parents wait on him hand and foot. And because he ends up hitting on her, and she's like, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" But nobody believes her because they're all like, "Stop! You're a jerk. Why are you picking on him like that? You're picking on poor Donnie, And he can't defend himself. And then when everybody else is gone, he says these really absurd, disgusting things to her because he's hitting on her. So,
and meanwhile, he's trying to get in her trousers.
You're pretty.
Oh, thank you.
Donnie wants a kiss.
Oh, that's mwah.
No, Donnie want a kiss like on Showtime.
Well, I don't think we know each other well enough, but you could be my pretend boyfriend.
Donnie has a secret. You promise not to tell anybody?
Well, sure, I promise.
Swear, cross your heart?
Cross my heart.
Okay, here's the deal. I'm not really slow. All right, I faked falling out of that tree. Now everybody waits on me hand and foot. It is the sweetest scam in the world.
What?
Yeah. So you want to go get some sushi? Have a little sake? Get a little weird? Whatever.
It's just such a great episode. David Cross makes the episode. It's very, very funny. The other episode that forced this show onto my Mount Rushmore is a David Spade episode where he has the chance to have a threesome with these 2 women in this episode. And the problem is these 2 women have these huge to-do lists of things they're trying to get done. And they're like, "We're so busy. We don't have time for you. We want to do this with you." Finch, that's the character's name. But we've got all these things we got to do. So he's like, "Hey, I'll do it. Give me the to-do list. I'll take care of everything on your list if we can get this done tonight." And he's going around town, and every time he bumps into a guy, there's this long montage. They show him talking to all these guys and explaining the situation, and immediately they start helping him. He's like painting their apartment. He's like washing cars. He's like doing shopping. He's doing all these things that are on this list, and he's got dozens of guys helping him.
Because they know the mission.
They know the mission, and they're like, we got to help this guy. And of course, at the end of the episode, it all falls apart. It doesn't happen because they were pretty much leading him on the whole time. And as he walks out of this restaurant brokenhearted, there's like 40 guys standing out there with their anticipating what happened. Is it gonna happen? And he just kind of shakes his head and puts his head down, and they start this slow clap as he's walking away. The crowd parts, and they're like a slow clap as he's walking because he tried. They're like, he got so close.
Was Heather Locklear in that show?
Who?
Heather Locklear. I think it's the same show. Here's, again, another show I don't think I've seen.
Oh, God. You should. It's very funny. I don't think she was. If she was, it was a guest star. She wasn't a regular.
I keep thinking like David Spade and Heather Locklear in something. And I think, or was it another show? I don't remember. I don't know.
I think of Rules of Engagement.
Oh.
She had a sort of a recurring role on that show. Another very, very funny show with David Spade. That show I would love, but to put on a list, but that was from maybe the mid 2000s. That wouldn't be a 90s sitcom, but yeah, that was a very funny show too. Again, he played the same kind of character. So weird.
He is like that typecast. He's like the same character in everything.
He is. That's his personality.
Right.
It's kind of like Full House. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't go that direction. That it was a great show, and I did watch it an awful lot.
It made my list at the last minute. It's one I wasn't thinking about. When we first started talking about this, I had a list together, and then I kind of tossed this one on at the last second.
All right. Well, I'm going to run with my second pick, and I'm going to pump some life into this podcast right now by going with another big dog. And I got to imagine this is the one that potentially is a three-way match. And it's part of must-see TV Thursday nights with Seinfeld. It's Friends.
Woo! Match.
What? No, nobody's got that on their list, do they?
Never heard of it.
No.
Now, here's some little fun facts about Friends. So it ran from 94 to 2004. It was 10 seasons long. And what I think is really incredible about it, and I didn't know this until I did a little diving into it, it wasn't always going to be titled Friends. It had three other titles that were potentially going to be the title track of the show. Insomnia Cafe.
Dumb.
Friends Like Us.
Dumber.
And then 6 of 1.
Oh, dumbest.
So right there, less is more is so applicable here. Just call it Friends. And they did, and it worked. And it's clearly one of the most iconic TV shows ever made. It defined a generation, basically. And you can tell by the popularity that still all these years later, 20 plus years gone from TV, I feel like it's still just as popular now as it ever was because of streaming, and they keep it alive.
Absolutely.
You know about the plate thing? Oh, yeah. No, Joey doesn't share food. I mean, just last week we were having breakfast and he had a couple of grapes on his plate. You wouldn't let her have a grape? Oh, no, not me. Emma.
Joey doesn't share food!
I mean, she goes on for 5 pages about how I was unfaithful to her. We were on a break!
Oh my God, if you say that one more time, I'm gonna break up with you.
Joey had an imaginary childhood friend. His name was...
Maurice!
Correct. His profession was...
Oh, Space Cowboy!
Correct! What is Chandler Bing's job?
Oh, gosh!
10 seconds. You need this or you lose the game.
It has something to do with transponding. Oh, he's a transmonster! That's not even a word!
And when I say, and I know this is going to be the one that will turn it over to Jen because she's got a pretty unique story about the show Friends, but it's just amazing because of, again, the cast. Like, you couldn't think about recasting the show Friends and then try to go a different direction now that you know what it was. good luck. It's just not, it wouldn't have worked the same. The chemistry wouldn't have been the same. I do blame Friends for misleading us as youngsters and misleading what a young professional adult life will look like. It is completely bullshit that you go sit at your friend's apartment and eat breakfast with them every morning while reading the paper. they totally, that's not accurate whatsoever. And it's a very specific thing. I saw a meme once that made me think of that. Like the worst lie ever told to us as kids was eating breakfast with your friends before work every day.
I mean, if you lived in an apartment building in New York City and you're all together in the same apartment building, that you could maybe see that happening. I mean, it's just not most people who live in the suburbs. That's not realistic. But
talk about just pop culture and how it influenced everything from fashion, hair. It's like the life we all dreamed about. Like, that's what I want to be when I'm a young professional. I want a group of friends like this, and I want the drama. I want the relationships. I think it provides one of the funniest scenes in sitcom history, and that's the pivot scene.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's brilliant, and it was ad-libbed, by Schwimmer, of all people.
Here we go. Pivot. 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 Pivot.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Well, originally this podcast was supposed to be, what was it, the Mount Rushmore of 1990s sitcoms that didn't include David Schwimmer? Like you wanted to do, John?
Right. Yes.
But a fun fact that David Schwimmer also starred in like three other, not starred, but had guest roles in three other 1990s sitcoms. Blossom, LA Law, Wonder Years, and NYPD Blue.
Oh, so really? That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah.
He was in Blossom?
Yeah, he was in Blossom and guest starred in a couple episodes.
I thought that had the, what's his nuts? Numb nuts.
Joey Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that dude? Joey Lawrence.
No idea. He was not on Friends, though.
But I know someone who was.
Me too. Me. Yeah.
There we go.
Good segue.
Yeah, tell us your story.
So my dad's cousin actually was one of the directors of Friends, Gary Helverson. So he started directing. He was bouncing back actually between Everybody Loves Raymond and Friends. So he started in season 5 and was, because it was all shot on the Warner Brothers lot. So it was going back and forth. And one year, my dad's like, hey, you should go visit him. So my friend Beth and I flew out to LA and then met with our friend Selena. And we're like, Stacia, and went to a taping. So it was season 9. And all of a sudden, my cousin walks up to us and says, hey, I'm going to throw you guys in a scene in Central Perk. And we're like, what? They came and grabbed us out of the audience, and the whole audience is looking at us like, who are these people? Where are you going? And so we are sitting in a scene. It's season 9 titled The One with the Boob Job.
How you doing?
And so we're sitting in Central Perk behind the couch, drinking fake coffee. One of the extras actually was kind of rude to us and was like, you need to be an extra for years to get this spot. So we're like in a real coveted spot, sitting on the high top table, drinking coffee. And it was a scene with Joey and Chandler talking about that Monica and Chandler are having financial problems and they're going to Joey for money. And then once Monica confronts Joey, he makes it up and says, oh, she wants to get a boob job. And but we're sitting at the table and we're drinking. There was nothing in our cups of coffee. We're drinking fake coffee, and we were told to carry on a conversation with each other, but nobody could talk. So we sat there and tried to talk to each other without actually using our vocals, and it's a lot harder than you think. We probably did it for an hour and a half for that one little scene, and then went and sat back in the audience, and we're just like in awe.
Wow.
My cousin knew I was obsessed with Matthew Perry. And so he sent Matthew over to meet us, and I talked to him for a good probably 3 minutes, and all I remember staring at him and seeing how much makeup he had caked on him. And the only thing I remember him saying is, are you having fun? I was so starstruck. I just stood there and stared at him, and I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? I'm talking to Matthew Perry.
That's crazy, because I have seen this episode. It is pretty amazing, though, how prominent you are. It's no joke. You are right there behind the couch, sitting at a table, drinking coffee with those guys filming that scene. Yeah. What I find interesting is you said it took an hour and a half of your time to do that?
Yeah, to film a 30-second scene. Then they had to reset the stage, and one of the extras was sneezing, and Yeah, it's crazy to think how long it takes for production of a 30-minute television show. I mean, we were there for 9 hours through the start to finish for a 30-minute taping.
Wow. Ballpark, how many people do you think sit in the viewing audience during a recording of a show?
Probably 150.
So it's relatively small.
Yeah, it's a small set. Even the set alone was very small, and they had, the apartment in Central Perk, and it was a small area.
Yeah.
But probably 150 people in the audience, and then of course had like an audience person who was like, "Hey, clap and laugh." And
if you were doing this in its 9th season, obviously at that point, Friends was
huge,
beyond huge. It was this just monster of a show.
Mm-hmm.
Post them all doing their legendary contract negotiations together as a cast, saying we're holding out until we're all paid $1 million an episode, which I always thought was really cool, though, that they did it uniform that way, where what one makes, we all make, and that's how it's got to be.
Right.
And I think it was appropriate because I think they were all essential.
Oh
yeah. It was an ensemble cast of all brilliant, funny people, and each
all likable.
All likable in their own ways. They're likable as individuals. And honestly, the actors themselves are likable too. I haven't seen anything about any one of them over the years that made me not like them for some reason. They're just all good, likable people, and they're good actors in other things they've done. They've all been good in other shows. And I've got a couple of fun facts for you. I'm wondering if our local Friends expert is going to know some of these things. But
bring it on.
The finale was not the most watched episode of Friends. Did you know that? You would think that their finale would have been the most watched episode, but it was not. There's one episode that aired earlier that was more.
I'm going to guess the engagement of Monica and Chandler. No?
Okay. And it has nothing to do with the actual, you probably won't guess this because it has nothing to do with the topic of the episode. It's from their second season. It just was an episode that aired after the Super Bowl. So, so it had that built-in crowd from the Super Bowl that just stayed on. As far as ratings go, it was slightly higher rated than the finale. So Phoebe was famous for singing songs. She sang more than 50 songs.
Smelly cat.
Smelly cat.
Smelly cat, smelly cat, what are they feeding you? Everybody! Smelly cat, it's not your fault.
And how about, you mentioned they made $1 million an episode for that last season. That's more than 40 times as much as they were making for the first episode. So, And to this date, each cast member still makes $20 million per year in royalties.
I believe it.
Wow.
Amazing.
Well, who's the big carrier of Friends now? Is it Netflix?
No, Netflix. It's not on Netflix anymore. It's been off, I want to say, for a year. I don't know.
There's got to be an exclusive then with some big streaming company that carries Friends.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably a streamer, but then there's also all the like TBS and you see it constantly airing. I mean, it's on every day throughout the day on some cable network somewhere.
Well, hence the $20 million a year.
Right.
The royalties alone are going to be through the roof.
Yeah, and that was probably part of some of those last contracts they negotiated was to get those perpetual royalties. So good on them, man, and good for their agents.
I don't know if we'll ever see a moment in like network TV like that again, going back to the Thursday must-see TV for NBC. That's when NBC was the king.
Right.
It wasn't even close. They just kicked ass because you also had ER firing on all cylinders on Thursday nights. So you'd get Laffy with 2 comedies, and then boom, they'd hit you with ER, and that was huge at the time.
Right. But yeah, that's my number one pick of this whole podcast would be Friends.
And that right there, despite your nonsensical reality of not watching Seinfeld, that is why we wanted you on for 90s sitcoms. I don't know anybody else other than you that can say you were on an episode of Friends in Central Perk.
I was
drinking fake coffee and having fake conversations. Yep. Do you remember what you were fake saying?
I think we were just like talking gibberish because we're like, what are we supposed to say? And we're just like kind of talking with our hands and saying la la la. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was gibberish. And the episode is still ran because every once in a while I'll get a text from a friend, hey, your episode's on. And then it's like, oh.
What does your royalty check look like?
0.
0.0.
Dang it, I should have negotiated better.
Yes.
Well, does that conclude our mini discussion now, zeroing in on Friends? Because it was on all three of ours, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I could talk for hours about Friends, and
Yes.
Maybe you should start a Friends podcast.
I should.
Oh, wow.
For sake of time, we can move on.
All right. So now that was my pick, technically. You two matched. So, John, do the math. Whose turn is it?
To be back to Jen, I guess, back over the top. Right?
Okay.
Am I right?
Right. One of my picks, actually, Full House was filmed on the same stage as Friends. Bet you didn't know that.
This is at Warner Brothers, you said?
Warner Brothers, stage 24. So Friends, or Full House was filmed first, and then Friends was after that.
Wow, I did not know that.
My last pick is Saved by the Bell.
Okay, cool.
Saved by the Bell.
When I wake up in the morning and the alarm gets out of warning, I don't think I'll ever make it on time. By the time I grab my books and I give myself a look, I'm at the corner just in time to see the bus fly by. It's alright, 'cause I'm saved by the bell.
Yeah, so that, ended the end of 89 to 93, and it only ran 86 episodes, but I feel like it's been syndicated so many times that I feel like I watched it more in syndication than it was actually on TV. But again, I feel like it was another iconic show of like my childhood.
I get it. We just were talking about this show recently in an episode we released, and it was under our annoying TV characters.
Mm-hmm.
And a character from this show very much made my Mount Rushmore, and it was Screech.
Screech, yep.
The most irrelevant TV character maybe ever.
Yeah.
It would have been fun to choke him out.
Dustin.
Throw him in a locker. Old school 80s, 90s fashion.
Right. But yeah, I would say that out of that, Saved by the Bell started as a Disney show and ended up, I want to say, on NBC as well. And ran through Good Morning, Miss Bliss, which was like the original Saved by the Bell, to Saved by the Bell, then to Saved by the Bell, the new class. And Mr. Belding was the only character that was in all three of those shows.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Didn't know that.
Kind of a fun fact there. But again, it's kind of similar to Friends. All those characters absolutely played their parts and kind of are known for those roles years and years later.
Who's your favorite character then from Saved by the Bell? Don't say Screech.
No, I would say probably, back in the day, Zach, because he was the cute, popular one.
Of course.
They all had their pluses and minuses. Jesse Spano and Kelly Kapowski.
And Zach has three names too, right?
What was his name? Mark Paul Gosselaar.
See, there you go. What's with all the three name dudes here?
Yeah, it's like in that era, they were like, hey, if you want to be popular, you need three names.
Strange. Yeah. Then there was Mario
Lopez.
And then the one that went on to be a stripper on a movie.
Elizabeth Berkley.
Yeah. Great movie, by the way, Showgirls.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's not a great movie. It's great for one reason, but it's not a great movie.
No.
I loved it.
Creep.
Very well shot.
Academy Award worthy.
Yeah, no comment.
All right.
Yeah, that was my last pick, was Saved by the Bell. Great show.
Was Saved by the Bell on at night or was it on after school?
I want to say it was like Saturday mornings.
It was a morning show, Saturday mornings.
It was, wasn't it?
Right, yeah.
Hey, Zach. Yo. Last night at the movies, you went too far. Just helped a mother get together with her son. What's so wrong about that? Wrecking my date with Joanna wasn't funny. Oh, like it was funny wrecking my study date the night before? Hey, you started it, man, making me look like a jerk at the max. Well, that's what you are. What did you say? You heard me. You get out of my face. And what if I don't, punk? Then I'll just have to make you, punk.
What was the name of the high school? Do you remember?
Bayside. Remember the Bayside Tigers? Woo, the cheerleader.
That's right. Bayside.
Right.
And Screech was the mascot, of course, just in a little tiger costume. And
Screech.
Yeah.
Of course.
You can put him up there with Janice, because Janice was another one you mentioned in the last podcast that you did not care for.
Annoying TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Janice didn't make our list, but we definitely we talked about her in that episode for sure.
Nanny. Yeah. Go back and listen to the episode if you haven't listened to it already.
Look at this. She's plugging our old episodes. This is awesome. We gotta have you on more often.
She's telling us to go back and listen to our own podcast.
All the listeners should go back and listen to that episode.
Well, we have a tendency to forget. But
So Jen is done with her picks, and I've only said 2.
yeah, we got out of order, I guess. So maybe
Sam hell's going on around here?
So I have 1 left. So how about we do this? You go up, I'll go, and then you close.
Okay. My next pick.
Or we could just end it right now. Who gives a shit? Let's forget it. It's over with.
Bye-bye.
All right, I'm going to go with a random one that I guarantee you is going to shock both of you. And there's a reason that I picked this one. It's because I have such a kind of a fascination / crush for this actress. And for a brief part of time was also part of the must-see TV Thursday thing. I'm talking about Leah Thompson and my love for her because of Back to the Future and that trilogy. But I loved her show in the 90s. That was Caroline in the City.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. It's Caroline in the City. It's Caroline. It's the city. It's Caroline in the city.
And I just loved the premise because it was kind of unique. It was Caroline Duffy, played by Leah Thompson. She was a cartoonist for a comic strip called Caroline in the City, based around her own life. And she drew cartoons around it and came up with the humor behind it and blah, blah, blah. And I just loved it because it showed a different side of her when I only had an affiliation and identified her as being in Back to the Future.
Right.
So I just saw her. Oh, cool. She's on a show. I'm clearly going to watch it. It sucked me in. And for all I know, maybe it did suck, but it didn't matter to me because it had Leah Thompson in it. And she's originally from Wisconsin. So there's that.
Well, I think she's actually born in Minnesota.
I was like, isn't she from here?
Yeah, she's one of us. She's a Minnesotan.
Is she?
Pretty sure, yeah.
All right. Well, then here. And the other cool part about it is she's from Minnesota, just like us.
Is she really? Wow. How about that?
Oh,
Yeah. Do I got to tell you guys everything?
Dumbass!
You don't know much about the fellow Hollywood people from our own state.
Right.
Dopey bastards.
I watched that show. I probably watched, I'm going to say I only watched maybe a handful of episodes, and that's it. I do remember it very well, and she was good on it, and I agree with you. Leah Thompson was something sort of special from those days, and I can appreciate that. I didn't really get into that show, though, so I don't have a lot to say about it. I don't really remember it very well.
It kind of had forced success because for a blip, it aired after or between Seinfeld and ER.
Yeah.
So like right there, look at the built-in audience that you get to tap into, especially back then, because your people are literally planted in front of their TVs. There wasn't DVR, and not many people were putting VHS tapes together for Caroline in the City. But it didn't have a long shelf life. It was 95 to 99. So it really does hit the sweet spot of this qualifying as a 90s sitcom.
Yes. Oh, Julia, do you need a nightgown?
No, that's all right. I sleep in a nude.
That's funny, because so do I. Okay, so we have to sleep in the same room together, and it's no big deal, really, because, we work together every day, and so it'll be the same, except with our eyes closed. So,
Would you stop? We're not sleeping in a bed together.
what's the big deal? It'll be like camp.
What camp did you go to?
I can't say I've ever watched an episode of that either. I'm lame. My TV viewing is lame. I remember when the show was on, but I don't think I've ever seen a single episode of that as well.
You were still watching reruns of 3-2-1 Contact.
Right? Hey, you're only a year older than I am.
That's not for public consumption. All right. Well, Caroline in the City. So there's my third pick. Now back to you, John.
That is a shocker. I would not have guessed that. That's all right. It works.
Mind your business.
All right. Mine, you know what? Mine is another NBC sitcom as well. NBC, like you mentioned, they ruled the roost when it came to sitcoms in the 90s. And this is the silliest one of all the ones on my list. It's Third Rock from the Sun.
Ooh, I love that show.
Ran for 6 seasons, 1996 to 2001.
Aliens are all around us. This is the story of a band of 4 such explorers. In order to blend in, they have assumed human form. This is the High Commander. He has assembled an elite team of experts, a decorated military officer, a seasoned intelligence specialist, and, well, they had an extra seat. The earth is populated by millions of beautiful women. And those who aren't beautiful have great personalities.
Obviously starring John Lithgow, who was absolutely brilliant on this show. Speaking of Emmys, I think he won 3 different Emmys for this show. And he was actually nominated for an Emmy every single season the show was on the air. He was nominated for an Emmy. And anybody who hasn't seen this show, it's kind of silly. It's about 4 aliens who come to Earth and they pose as a family and try to pass off as human beings in Ohio somewhere. And it was also the breakout role for Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Nobody knew who he was until this came along, and he's had a pretty big career. He's actually done directing. He's had a really good Hollywood career since this show.
Yeah, he's kind of like a legit powerhouse now in Hollywood. Because of producing, acting, directing, he kind of does it all now.
And he also, I've actually seen him, he's very talented musically, too.
He's had a bigger career than French Stewart, I'll put it that way.
Who? French Stewart also on Third Rock from the Sun. Yes, it was the breakout role for French Stewart. Who? And it was also the last role for French Stewart. It was the only role.
French Stewart came and went like a fart in the wind.
God. I liked the show. It was silly. And probably the main reason I did like it was John Lithgow, because he was so damn funny. And he had done a little bit of comedies here and there, but mostly he was known for more serious roles like the movie Footloose. And then he does this role where he's playing just an absolute goofball, even like physical comedy and over the top comedy. It was so different. And I think that's why he got so much attention in the Emmys. And
Hello, Mary.
Hello, Dick. Dick!
Make love to me, Mary. Right here, right now.
Are you out of your mind?
No, but I'm out of my pants. I wonder how humans would react if we came out as aliens.
You know, I bet they'd be cool with everything except for us kissing on TV.
That's a good pick. Third Rock from the Sun. See, that's the thing. For me, this is just my own process of how I came to my 4. 90s sitcoms. For me, as soon as I finish the phrase 90s sitcoms, Seinfeld and Friends is just right there. Boom. Okay, they're protected. They're on the spot. But then the last 2 were kind of just like, my God, now there's like a sea of shows to pick from. So to fill out my final pick, my Mount Rushmore, it's Frasier.
Hey, baby, I hear the blues are calling. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs. Quite stylish. And maybe I seem a bit confused. Yeah, maybe, but I got you pegged. But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
Frasier is almost self-built in because of, again, my love for Cheers, and that it was the clearly the most successful spin-off of Cheers, but now highlighting Frasier Crane's life as he moved back to Seattle from Boston, and then started a radio show talking about psychiatry. And so did, and his brother was a psychiatrist. He had to have his elderly father, who I love that actor. I think his name's John Mahoney. I just thought it was a great show, great concept. And it was like a really successful way to spin Cheers off. And you would never have really guessed if you're going to do a spin-off of all the characters of Cheers. I don't know if anyone would really draw that much attention to Frasier until it happened. And then it was so appropriate that it did.
Morning. Oh, morning, Dad. How was your date last night? Feels strange, a son asking his father how his date was last night. When he could ask the date herself.
Elaine, this is Daphne Moon, and my son, Frasier Crane. This is Elaine Morris.
Yes, hello.
So, it's a pleasure to meet you, Elaine. Yes, I know that Dad's wanted to have you for a long time. I mean, for dinner.
Yes.
What did you 2 kids do last night? Did you play some games? Board games. Not that you were bored or excited. Well, not that I'd know anything or should, but warm buns, Elaine.
But it worked out great. Great cast. It was 11 seasons too, by the way, Frasier. So it's not like this was some little cream puff show that came and went. And for crying out loud, the series and cast won 37 Emmy Awards over its run.
Oh, wow. I think that Kelsey Grammer is up there in the top 2 or 3 as far as one guy playing the same character in the most number of TV episodes when you combine Cheers with Frasier. I think that there's only a couple of examples that are and might be like The Simpsons are probably one of the few examples that's actually more, and pretty much everybody on The Simpsons has played the same character for 30 some years now. But I mean, the fact that he was able to take a character who, let's face it, on Cheers, he was very good on Cheers. He was funny on Cheers, but he was probably not in the top 4 or 5 characters. He was a lesser known character. And to have that be the spinoff and have it be such a successful spinoff. There's been spinoffs the 80s and 90s were the era of spinoffs. I mean, for crying out loud, there's Joey. I mean, that shithole tanked.
Hey, come on now. I like this.
You were the one. Well, that would have lasted like 1 or 2. But I mean, there's been so many of those examples where you take a character that you think is going to be so good on their own, but it just doesn't always work out. With Frasier, it did. And I will say this. I've tried watching the reboot. It is not good. The reboot of Frasier.
I have not dove into the reboot.
Do not.
Speaking of this, you said, so Joey, there was a show recently on that I watched the whole thing through. And of course, like a moron, I can't remember the name now. It was on one of the streaming services where it was Matt LeBlanc as the main character. But he really was playing Matt LeBlanc.
Oh, I know that show. I watched it every episode.
What is it?
It's called Episodes, and it's a hilarious show.
God, I love that show because it's him, like post Friends fame.
Yeah. Did you watch that show? Episodes? Have you seen
all of them?
Oh, okay. I didn't know you'd watched that.
That's why I was mad. I couldn't think of the damn title of the show, the episodes. And Jen, how have you not?
I don't know. I don't know.
You're losing street cred every time we speak to you.
Off now, bye.
No, you should watch it. He plays an exaggerated version of himself. He's playing himself, but it's like an over the top. But no, that show is awesome. It only lasted like 3 or 4 seasons, and I wished it would have gone on further because that show was very funny.
It deserved to go on. Like I really got into that show because it was like a Friends angle of the way Curb Your Enthusiasm is filmed. It's Larry David being Larry David, the guy who created Seinfeld in Curb, where this is Matt LeBlanc being Matt LeBlanc, the monster star from Friends.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to get into this, Jennifer, for God's sake.
Plays such an over the top, exaggerated version of himself. He's a prick and he's hard to deal with, and he's just very, very funny. He is very funny.
Very arrogant.
Yeah.
Oh, it's streaming on Hulu.
Well, it was a Showtime series, so I don't know if look for it. Episodes is called.
Use that little Google machine. Type in episodes, and it'll provide you all the lovely information you're looking for.
Perfect.
So that wraps up our list. For God's sake, we're done.
That's it. Holy cow! I had a couple of honorable mentions. I don't know. I'll let you guys if you have anything you want to throw out there that just missed your list.
How about you, Jen?
Well, Family Matters was on my list.
Oh, great.
With Urkel.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Right.
I did originally say Sex in the City, but then Mark's like, it's got to be a live studio audience. You can't use that one.
That's not true. Who said that?
I watched Sex in the City after it ran. Like, I binge watched it with a bunch of girlfriends many years after it was off air. So I'm always late to the game on half these shows.
Well, you'll be late to the game on Seinfeld, obviously, about 30 years late.
Right. And Frasier and pretty much every other show you talked about today.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Well, this just goes to show, I mean, you're probably more in the majority. Mark and I watched way too much damn TV. We just do. And we always have. We're TV junkies, I think. So that's why we've probably, I don't know. That's probably what it comes down to.
Some people get 8 hours of sleep a night, and I'm not one of them. I'm too busy watching TV over and over and movies over and over. And
that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah. So the couple that I had that I really struggled with, and we've talked about this show a little bit in a past episode, it was That 70s Show. I loved that show. I think it's awesome. It started in the 90s. It did go into the 2000s a little bit. Another one was the original Drew Carey show. Thought that show was awesome. Also News Radio.
I was going to say News Radio is definitely, it was that or Caroline in the City for me.
Yeah, those two. There's a show that I wanted to include, but it only lasted one season, and that's not good enough. It has to be more than one season. But I would recommend everybody, especially people of our generation, watch this show. It's called Freaks and Geeks, and it was so hilarious. And it had all these stars that went on to have massive movie careers, but at the time, they were nobodies. It had Jason Segel, Seth Rogen, James Franco, Martin Starr. Yeah. These guys were all on one show together. and it's about a bunch of high school kids.
I do got it. You've told me about that before, and that's what's so weird. It's one season, so it's like, all right, I'll invest in it, but it's going to be over before it gets off the runway.
Well, just think of it like this, though. You just get to watch it all in one season. Then just don't think of it like I wish there were more seasons, and because it is, think of it like a long movie, basically.
Because you can wish in one hand.
Well, you can wish in one hand and crap in the other, and see which gets filled first.
Well, Jennifer,
Yes.
are you still nervous?
No, I'm good.
And the rest of your day, you're doing what today?
I'm going to go to the third grade Super Kid Fun Day at my daughter's school. And then I'm going to go to a listing appointment and then my daughter's gymnastics.
Oh, full day.
Busy day.
Sounds like a full house.
Come on, man.
Yep.
No.
So thank you for checking out 90s Sitcoms. Thank you, Jennifer Lundquist, for your time today.
Absolutely.
Talking about shows you've never seen. And I would like to thank our sponsor, Jabot Jeans and Drakkar Noir Cologne.
Ooh. Very fitting. Well, thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Frasier has left.